Samhain was a time of transition from light into dark. Its name means end of summer, and it signals the time of winter, the coming new year after death and rebirth. It is a foreboding time when ill omens abound, as well as the fulfillment of deadly prophecies. It's a time when the spirits can most easily cross the boundaries between this world and the next. But there was a lighter side as well. Great feasts were put on by all the regional and tribal kings. There was food and drinking, and the feast itself was thought to protect people from the dangers the season held. But among the customs most important at this time was the extinguishing and relighting of the fires. Hi friends, I'm Kevin McLean. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links below. And a big thanks to all my Patreon and other supporters. Great bonfires were lit upon hills during the period, most famously at the Hill of Ward, Tlachtka. A later, clearly medieval and highly Christianized tale is told of this daughter of Mugrua, who is elsewhere called Lugrua, who is trained by Simon Magus. Tlachtka died upon the hill at Samhain, giving birth to triplets: Kummel, meaning hacking or destroying; Torb, meaning adverse; and Muach, meaning affliction or gloom, perhaps reflecting the general qualities of the coming season. It is said that a great fire was lit upon the hill, and that the fires were extinguished throughout Ireland and lit from that one fire, which would be started through friction in the oldest fashion known to man. But what was the origin of this mysterious custom, and what was its purpose? It isn't likely that all the fires of Ireland were doused at one time and lit from only Tlachtka, but there was a common idea of performing this type of act, and closely connected to this was the power of the king. It was the king who was required often to light such fires. In myth, it was Lugh who lights such fires, holding torch processions for the dead and kindling fires at Usnach, which also serves as his gravesite. Prophecies abound in regards to the power of these fires, not only to banish evil and sickness, but the power to make kings. The one who lighted a prophesied fire would be the one to become king. The fire and its ashes conveyed protective and healing qualities on people and animals alike. But why, then, did it need to be extinguished? In myths linked to Samhain, there can be observed a common theme. Lugh defeats Balor, described as burning and having a great sinister eye. Fionn defeats Allen, likewise a fiery adversary who burns down Tara every Samhain. While one layer is a harvest myth, it is likewise a myth of overcoming forces of the underworld, forces that would come every Samhain and demand from them 3/4 of the produce of the land, and even the lives of children. And so another, and perhaps more correct reading, is that Lugh defeats the Fomorians on Samhain, preventing this great evil, which would see the people starve and die of disease during the winter. Balor and his eye may represent the evil eye, which would turn fire against the people, burning homes, food supplies, and such dangers were much greater during the winter, when fire was needed more than ever. In Roman society, this evil eye was also greatly feared. Almost all oil lamps have decorated apotropaic symbols to turn away the evil eye. and most often these come in the form of sexual images. Yet from surviving sources it is clear that fire was greatly revered among the pre-Christian and Christian Irish for secular needs and religious symbolism. Many Christian saints are known for lighting sacred fires, no less so than St. Patrick himself, who brought fire out of the water, and who lit a fire, supposedly upon Easter, and fulfilled the prophecy of the Druids, who said that the one who first lights the fire on that night will come to rule Ireland. Though for Patrick that meant his religion, yet they are trying to validate this through a Druidic prophecy of fire. But it was said that Samhain was the Easter of the pagans, and so perhaps the myth actually refers to Samhain rather than the Christian Easter. Yet what is it to say that Samhain is akin to Easter? Does it only imply importance? Or is there something else? Death and rebirth. Lugh first appears at Tara on Samhain, described as luminous, yet appearing at night, long after the sun has set. Another medieval poem speaking of this arrival rejoices, suggesting that it was the presence of him which illuminated the fort. Samhain was also the time that the Fianna bands were invited into the Fortress of Kings and sheltered for the winter in exchange for protection and entertainment. The dousing and relighting of the fires was not only a way to demonstrate the power of the king and unite the community, but was an act of ritual purity. The fires themselves had to be cleansed to thwart the power of the evil eye. Thus they were relit from the purest source, wood rubbed together, a force fire, the most ancient tradition, the way taught by Hermes in Greek tradition. In this way the fire would be uncontaminated, the old sick fire of the evil eye replaced by the pure fire with the spirit of life, growth, light, and usefulness to all man's endeavors. And so it is likely that the heroes and gods in these tales are reflecting this myth, and that they come to guard the home and protect it from the forces of the evil eye. Interesting connection with this is that Lugh's mother is identified as having a true name, Féada, meaning wood, and it is said, Lugad Luath, flame of the household, strength of the tribe. The kingdom of Ireland was sometimes called the kingship of fire, so closely linked the concepts were. The fire would protect the people throughout the winter, but it had to be purified through rites, and the myths of slaying a destructive fire deity around Samhain likely relates to this practice. Great bonfires were lit pure to drive away destructive forces at Tlachtka, far from intending to honor her children at this time. It is much more likely that the fires were meant to drive them away. The defiled mother who had died giving birth to these terrible children. Perhaps her death represents the degeneration and decline of the sun. The physical sun was feminine, but it was controlled by a masculine force. This masculine force is at times overcome, loses control of the sun, and must win the sun back again. Ogma was said to have invented the Ogham script because he wanted to warn Lugh about the abduction of his wife, and that his wife would be abducted 7 times into the underworld. And this story may in fact relate to the 7 days of the week, the descent of the sun into the underworld. But on Samhain, not only negative spirits can cross over, but also good spirits. Food was left out for the ancestors, and it was a time to honor the dead, not only to fear. The cattle were rounded up, and a great slaughter took place of any excess cattle that could not last through the winter. And the bones of these cattle were then piled together and burnt upon the flames. Prophecies were made through the heating of rocks, and young children would lay close to fires and have the ashes and the smoke blow over them in order to bless them. Cattle would also be driven sometimes between the fires in order to receive its purative qualities. It was the fire that would keep back the dark from the time of the feast of Samhain to the time of the ascendancy of the sun. It was the main force for protection against all manner of things that lurked through the winter night. I hope you'd enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, consider supporting us. And as always, stand tall.